Welcome to the Choose on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Becky Plautz. This is the place where we talk about living with intention and find out how we can support each other in living on purpose. And today is our strategy conversation around fearless freedom. And that means that I have some guests from the community with me. Having a conversation around the acronym of FREE. So a nice short sweet one, but guess what? We always go deep in what happens around these acronyms and just helping us kind of unpack, this we're going to call it 4 steps because there's 4 letters. So it's 4 steps to face fear, release limits, and rise boldly into our purpose with hearing from each other. So Terry, thank you for joining us. And Kerri, I'll just give you guys a second to say who you are so people can hear the difference in our voices on the podcast. So, Terry, do you want to introduce yourself quick? And thanks for jumping in.
Sure. No, I'm Terry Sayre. I live in Tulare, California. I'm a member of this community, love it, and do participate in action hours and run 3 of those myself, which today is one of them. So happy about
Courage, courage. Terry's always helping us bring our courage to the table, anything that we're doing. The courage hours. Yes. Thank you, Terry. Kerri, how about you?
Sure.
Terry
My
and
name
Kerri.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
Terry and Kerri. One letter difference. Hmm. So my name is Kerri Spromberg, and I am newer to the community, I'd say. This is maybe my second call, I think, on Terry. I did a maybe a s- I'm going to call it a Super Soul Sunday following
Yeah.
Oprah, but it wasn't. It was some kind of spirituality kind of podcast that I was in on, and it was fantastic. So I'm really excited to be part of the Choose on Purpose podcast today for Fearless Fridays. So
Yeah.
thanks for
Yeah,
having
thanks
me.
for being here. Yeah, okay, so
Yes.
let's dive into the 4 step framework that I'm bringing to the table to have a conversation with you ladies for joining me live here. So the F for free is what we're gonna go work on. So if you're listening and you are like, ooh, this is gonna be good, this is definitely one that you take notes on if you're able to do that, because this framework is gonna really give you some tangible action steps if you choose to do that, which we encourage you to do. So the F stands for face your fear, right? Like face the fear. And I know that can sound really scary, but right, this is really about acknowledging the fact that we're going to have discomfort. We're going to have things that scare us, that um, make your heart race, that give you like a second guess, which is good, right? We don't want to just jump blindly to things, but facing those things when we feel like that could be out of my comfort zone. That could be something that I'm wanting to do, but I'm allowing it to hold me back, right? That's what we want to work on facing is those pieces of our life that we're like, oh, I just can't. I can't. Like that's actually a kind of a swear word in my house. Like we can choose to, work on those things and get us closer to doing, said thing. But really working on acknowledging that there's some hesitation, there's some resistance there. And it's because that it's holding me back that I want to face that thing, right? That it's something that will better you when you take the time to actually acknowledge that, hey, this is something I want to face. So facing our fears is something that I always talk about fear as my friend. So the theme in the month and talking about how I practice, leaning into this is something that Terry and I have conversations about this just nonstop. The courage, the fear that we bring into. So I know Terry, you're gonna have something to say about facing our fears.
Yeah. I am a fearless living coach. That's where I was trained as a life coach. And so being fearless is one of my themes in my life, and I help my clients with that as well. But being fearless does not mean not having fear. Fear is our friend. Fear is there to protect us physically thank goodness. Thank goodness that we have fear in order to protect ourselves fearlessly from physical danger. Yet, when it protects us from emotional growth and facing and having courage, it can often stop us from growing, and it keeps us cocooned in our comfort zone. So when you
Mm,
talk about comfort zone and fear, fear is the surrounds our comfort zone. It keeps us there. It doesn't want us to be hurt emotionally, physically, mentally. It doesn't want us to be hurt. So it will keep us from taking risks. And the only way for us to grow is to take risks and to go out of our comfort zone. So it plays different roles in our lives, but it's definitely our friend and wants to protect us and care about us. So I think of fear, holding fear's hand as a tool for discernment and walking down my journey, my pathway, holding fear's hand, not letting it be in front of me, stopping me from taking steps forward, but keeping me aware and helping me to be just to have discernment in the choices that I make. So when you said face your fear is the the thing for the F, I, of course, wrote down being fearless. And
mhm.
to me, being fearless is having courage and being brave. And so facing your fear is being brave. It is having courage. It is wanting to grow. So that's
Yeah.
in a nutshell. That's what
Yeah.
I think of
It's
when I think of
I think of
fearless.
it as a signal, right? It's a
Yeah,
signal
absolutely.
for
Yeah.
us to it's teaching us something. It's teaching us, is this something, and so that we can kind of be prompted. I think about being prompted to, think about, how does it kind of masquerade as perfectionism, people pleasing, imposter syndrome, like you say, the emotional fears. And that's exactly what I'm thinking about, how much myself, I can see that in my own journey, and I hear that from clients, and how those things come up. And take a minute to even list those things out. That's one of the things that I know supports me, is putting pen to paper, just slowing down my thoughts and allowing myself to kind of think through, you know, how is this fear, or this thing that's coming up, how is it kind of disguised as me wanting to be perfect, or I'm procrastinating on something. There's something at work there that is like, oh, I can see that this is something, when I choose to face that fear, that I can make a different choice. I can show up on purpose, intentionally, for facing the thing that is holding me back from that growth. Like you mentioned, it's a signal for growth. That's how I sum it up too. Yeah, I love that. And I put in a mantra in my notes here, to say a mantra for facing your fear could be as simple as, I see you fear, but I choose faith. Like just continuing to walk. So that works really well with your visual, Terry, of walking hand in hand
I love that. I love
with
that.
fear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I see you.
during the pandemic, I had a thing in my closet that I would see every morning. It says, "Feed your faith and your fear will disappear."
Mhm.
And I think so. I love the fact that you brought up faith, because it does take so much faith to step out. It's like, you see that picture of somebody standing on the cliff, and having the faith to take that first step, or into the dark room where you can't see what's going to happen. There's not, don't have the known, right? When you're stepping out of your comfort zone, you don't have the
Right.
known anymore. And so yeah, I love that you brought up faith.
Yeah, there's definitely a level of trust that needs to come into play when we're deciding to face a fear. Yeah, I love that. All right, let's move into the R. And that I have as release the resistance. You know, Thinking about those limiting beliefs and those um, old narratives that come along with us, and if we are unconscious of that, they become the habits that are keeping us in survival mode, right? From allowing our fear to run our lives and hold us back and keep us stunted from our growth. Um, I think about how much my routines, rituals, whatever you want to call them, the things that I know support me, how important they are for me being able to recognize when I'm not, stepping out and taking some risks and taking some action steps that aren't just on autopilot, right? Like the routines are important, and it's good to shake things up in a way that makes sure that we do step out and release the resistance that we might have about making a change in our life, because we need to sometimes let go of that. And I think about breath work as a really big piece for releasing retention, releasing resistance, and how like pivotal in my 30s, understanding the power of breath work, how that has been the game changer for me. And Kerri is all about the breath work and using tools like box breathing. And that was one of the things that I had in my notes for releasing resistance, that I know that, I've taught my kids. My kids know about like the power of their breath. Do they use it all the time? No, but the shiny moment that they are like, woosah, like just like breathing it out, I am celebrating it. And I'll share a really quick story. I see that Kerri, you're going to share too. A really quick story how this just played out in my life. We did a quick vacation to the Wisconsin Dells, which is water park capital, all things in Wisconsin. And there was some really cool slides, water slides. And my oldest, was really reluctant, but she wanted to do it. She wanted to go down the slide. She asked her dad to go with her. They were getting ready. And I have a recording of her at the top of this slide that kind of, you go up, you drop down and you go up the other side. It's kind of like a U shape, we'll just say. And you go down in a tube and you go up the other wall and back. So you're kind of swooshing back and forth in this U shape. Okay. So there's a big plunge down and then you go up and back down. So there was a lot of fear around that. And I watched her literally in the video. You can see her put her hands up and just like she's doing the motion to bring her hands down to get her breath to just level her out and move her energy and release the resistance of, how much fear she was feeling about the anticipation, right? That was coming for this ride. So breath work has been a tool that has changed, my life, just understanding how easy it can be, how simple it can be to use the power of our breath to reset our nervous system and release, so that we can make a better choice outside of the anxiety or fear that's coming up around the thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add is that she created that little stillness of a pause. Today's actually summer solstice, and that's actually where the sun pauses. And then we have that little bit of stillness. And I think that's what separates our mind or can connect the body then with the mind, right? So then we can calm our body and then let our mind ease, right?
Yeah.
Because it's connected, although we're always in our heads. So then once we can kind of get into, yeah, more breath and body, because it connects both, then we get a little bit more space. And it does lessen the fear when we become present, right? Because it's our brain trying to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
Like Terry mentioned earlier,
Mm-hmm.
that, that's we need fear in order to, not get hit by a car when we cross the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
But emotionally, emotionally, it's more of a challenge because our brain is constantly moving. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. And the box breathing has been like the simplest, understanding for them to just be like, it's just, helping you slow down, count for four, hold for four, count for four, hold for four. And
It's
it's easy.
Yeah, it's so easy and it practices that stillness, right? So when we inhale, then we notice, oh, there's a space between my
Mm-hmm.
inhale and my exhale. And that space is actually where the stillness is. That's where the pause is. And I think that's what actually allows the brain to settle. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you're a journaler, then you could even use, what belief this question to journal on could be what belief, habit, or maybe even a story, right? Because again, we're writing our own stories right now in our head about whatever it is. So, what belief, habit, or story am I willing to leave behind today? Could be a really powerful opportunity to check in and see, like, what are you willing to release? And I kind of call my Fridays Forgiveness Fridays, and I don't always do it. It's not, I won't say it's a ritual of mine, but it's an intention on my calendar that I want to get um, focused on that release every Friday. Just let go of the week, before I'm really immersed in my family dynamic more, which I mean, during the summer, it's anytime, but, just do some journaling around that too, to kind of check in and see what are you ready to release? That can really be helpful. Okay, let's look at the first E, which is embrace empowerment. So simple, right? Like, oh, so simple. But when I think about that, I'm thinking about those uncomfortable moments, like how leaning into the discomfort and choosing, an action. It doesn't have to be the perfect, the right, the best action step, but really it's about embracing the fact that you can choose to take an action step. You can do that for yourself and start figuring it out by saying, okay, I'm taking a step closer to that. And community is a huge part of how I have helped myself continue to do that, and recognizing when I don't even recognize it, my community, the people around me are like, oh, look at what you just did. Like, how do you do that? And then it's those questions. It's all about the questions that we ask ourselves. Like, I think how much the quality of questions that help impact the way that I empower myself now, and how my community, the people that are around me, like the questions you ask me and that I then can ask myself and become more aware of. Like, to me, there's definitely an embracing of that needs to happen, that does happen when I feel more free. It helps me shift from fear-based reactions to like power-filled decision making, because I'm embracing the opportunity to check in and have that. So embrace empowerment is the first
That's
piece.
yeah, that embrace and that choice is such a big thing because I think we've all been in limbo before where we're not making that choice. And I think that also heightens our anxiety and doesn't allow us to be so free when we're in the limbo before the thought and the choice, if that makes sense. So, hmm, let me think about this. So, yeah. So if we are in limbo and we're not making a choice, there is more anxiety there with the ruminating versus making the choice and being free and carrying forward
Mm. Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, and maybe even physically, right? Our body can start feeling tense in the neck and shoulders. Yeah. So I think that choice is huge for embracing
Yeah.
and going forward because it does we do take a step closer then to that, whatever our action is.
Yeah, I love that because I think there really is a visceral expression of our body when we are in that space of indecision,
Absolutely. Right. Right.
and that space does create all kinds of thoughts that are not empowering, that are disempowering.
Exactly the
And
opposite. Mhm.
yeah, so it's that embracing, that enveloping, that welcoming in of our God-given power. We really have that free agency, free to make our choices based upon our needs, our understanding, our unique capacity. And so I think by embracing that empowerment, first of all, recognizing that empowerment, being aware that we have that capacity, and then embracing that without the fear of failing, the fear of being not accepted, the fear of not being good enough, all those fears that keep us, trapped in our comfort zone. So yeah, I've been looking, I love to look up things in the dictionary. So I was looking them up while we're
While
talking,
you're talking.
and it talks about empowerment. I mean, embracing, it's like a hug. And I mean, a hug is a physical thing, but there's also there's hugs that you give yourself, right? By making choices that are meeting your needs. Yeah. Yeah. There. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. So, and it talks about in cherishing, embracing is cherishing growth, cherishing taking action, cherishing, so cherishing, which is to me is a kind of a heightened love when you cherish, and welcoming it, accepting. Those are some of the acronyms for embrace. But I think it's just when you're not because you don't feel right. It's like you
Yeah.
do that visceral anxiety when it comes to making those choices, and is the power within us to take the action and to make the choice. And if it doesn't work out, so what? That's how we learn the most, right? But there's so much fear about making a mistake. And that's the fear that disempowers us.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
keeps us stuck
Yeah.
in a thought pattern, stuck
Yeah.
in a position or anything, right? So true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the story, right? We build up the story to keep us there. Our fear keeps us there because we're building up this wall of fear in the story. Yeah, I love that. And then right thinking about like a good reflection for this would be like who supports you in your bravery, right? Like and when you're not embracing it, the empowerment to know that you have the choice, you have the autonomy to be able to choose something different for your life. Who reminds you and supports you in that? Who helps you come back to yourself and remember that, oh yeah, that's right. That was a moment. I can change that. I can bring courage with me, and then I want to just get a micro little challenge in here to say, like, what is one thing today that you could do with courage? Send an email you've been avoiding, right? What's that something that you've been avoiding? Not telling someone straight up no to something that's not right for you, or to say yes, to take a leap on something, like thinking about the positive things too, right? What is the one thing that you need to bring courage to today that you can go and take some action step from listening to this and embracing the empowerment of getting these reminders right now? I want to encourage you to do that. And then the second E in our acronym for F.R.E.E is expand. Expand into the new, right? That's what we're talking about, making a change. Think about what is it gonna feel like to take that one step that you're maybe gonna feel like, man, that was bold. Because maybe you've been putting it off for so long, you've been building it up to be such a big thing that it feels super bold to just take the courage with you and walk with fear and go and do the thing because you're so unsure. Like go into this understanding that you're expanding into this new space with courage, being more fearless into this version or this growth opportunity for yourself, and thinking about the possibilities in that. I think that's a big thing about the embracing piece also, as we are stepping into the new and expanding on that, thinking about the positive what ifs, that possibility opening up and making sure that we're thinking about that, right? That's how I have definitely helped myself move from only thinking about the fear or the resistance that I was having about something that I was in my head so much about is, the positive what ifs. Well, what if I do send that email? And what if I do let them know that this bothered me or, whatever it is? What are the good things that can come from you speaking your truth is really what it comes down to, and being more of who you are. To me, that's really that bold next version of yourself is waiting on that other side of not facing the fear, right? We're working on facing the fear to bring more freedom to our life. And it's when we shrink back or shrink behind and our fear and allow it to keep us stuck that we're working towards going to freedom. So expand into the new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the cinnamon,
So,
some cinnamons, the
synonym.
synonym. Yeah, some of those are like open up. We talk about being open-hearted and open-minded and vulnerable, being open and unfold. I like that unfolding. Think of a beautiful flower that just kind of unfolds a little bit at a time. So that expansion can be, it can be, the word just went in and out. It happens incrementally. It doesn't have to be,
Mm-hmm.
make this huge
It's non-linear.
expansion all at once,
Mhm.
increasing, enlarging. I like this one, amplify.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Amplify. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like just when you're talking about releasing, I always think of Frozen, Elsa standing at the top of the let it go, it's kind of like expanding, and you just talked about being your true self. That's kind of an example of that whole story. There's so much in those stories. It's not for kids. It's
Mhm.
like expanding, being who you were meant to be, who you were created to be. So I think it definitely expansion is an unfolding, an amplification of who we are and our courage to be that person and take on and embrace the new things that we can do. And I mean, I think a lot of times, I'm 80 years old and yet I am still expanding every day. And I think of people
Amen.
that
That's
sit on the
beautiful. That's
couch all
good.
day, or instead of
Yeah.
expanding, they're imploding, right? It's the
Hmm.
Mm.
opposite, instead of what's next? What can I do today? How can I be more like, my mentor, my goals? How can I, there's just, it's never ending. This expansion is never ending when you are willing to face fear and be free. Be free. Yeah.
And it's scary at first,
Yeah.
and then it's so liberating, and there's a feeling with the liberation afterwards. Hmm.
Yeah. And acknowledging that too. Terry is someone that has taught me the power of acknowledging myself for every step, every decision, every choice that I'm making, that I'm choosing to step toward what's for me, what feels good, what, is unknown, but I'm moving towards it instead of letting it keep me stuck. Writing acknowledgments every day has been a powerful way that I continue to expand on the new thoughts, ideas, actions that I'm choosing to take every day. Yeah.
Yep. You are a live example that we can watch in real time, expanding.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that. I love that and I pride myself on that. So thank you, Terry, for saying that, because I love to know that I am in integrity, walking my walk, talking my talk in here, not just bringing these ideas to the table, but really that's why you guys are in here too. The community, we're practicing living these pieces of how we can grow and how we can bring more freedom to our lives because we have the power to do it. We have the opportunities to do what we want to do in our life. And we're here to remind each other, that we do have that because we do have the free autonomy to choose and commit to things that are in alignment for us. So I have some like fun little quotes that I'll like take us away with to wrap this up. And then I'll ask you guys to share like your takeaway if you would like to share anything overall for the acronym for you. But right, thinking about expand into new, really want you to know like Your next chapter is being written by today's brave decision. Like thinking about that as an affirmation or an awareness each day to just remind ourselves that your next chapter could be your next day, right? Every day could be a new chapter versus I was always thinking about the month because it's easy, like turn the calendar, fresh chapter. But what if we thought about every day is a new chapter that we're writing in our life, and that being written by the brave choices that we're making, the decisions that we're making about who we are, who we know to be, and the way that we're showing up in our everyday, like just strides that will happen when we expand into that new. And then when I was looking at the embracing empowerment, just making sure that we understand, like my understanding is that empowerment is found in the small moments, where we are choosing ourselves, where we're loving ourselves enough to make the choice that's small, that can feel big because it's for us. So that's the embrace empowerment piece. And then releasing resistance. I think about how much letting go is wisdom. It's just so much wisdom in letting go and having the power to just be like, okay, let it go. And then facing the fear, knowing that it's not fear that's the enemy. And we've talked about that, but really it is the avoiding it. That's the enemy. The enemy is that you're avoiding the fear. That's why we're talking about needing to face it, because then we're no longer avoiding. So those are my takeaways, and just like what I was hearing in the conversations and bringing this together and having this conversation with you ladies in here. Those were like my 4 key takeaways from our steps today. So does anyone else want to share anything that came through for you?
Well, I think for me, this is a topic that I live daily, because of the opportunity I've had to really work with individuals and help them to face their fear and to go from fear to freedom. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the work that I do, is for people to be aware that fear is what's keeping them stuck in the first place, and then helping them with strategies that can allow them to expand, embrace their true self, and no longer resist freedom. To recognize fear for what it is. It's there to protect you. And for you to have that capacity to discern when it's physical fear, emotional fear, mental fear. What is it? Why? Why am I afraid? Am I in physical danger? No. Am I keeping myself stuck in my comfort zone? Yes. So what can I do? What steps can I take? And I think you've given me some really good thoughts, some good vocabulary to include in my conversations with others, and just helped me to continue to clarify my understanding. Yeah, I love these opportunities to have these conversations, and I love doing acronyms. So fun.
Yeah, the
Thank you for
acronyms
sharing.
make it easy. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great. That's beautifully said. Um, I'd say overall it's empowering to embrace the fear, and then comes the expansion.
yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I like the acronyms as well, because then it kind of gets us, it's easier to remember for me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And so my encouragement for our listeners is to, reflect on your own freedom path. You know, these are opportunities for you to check in with yourself, to ask yourself some empowering questions about how you want to make a change in your life, and what that could look like and feel like and do for you to feel more free in your life. So, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Choose on Purpose podcast. And I want to thank Kerri and Terry for chiming in and sharing your wisdom on the podcast today. And, reach out. Their information will be in the show notes. If you want to connect with, when you want to connect with any of us, you're more than invited to do that. And love yourself, live fearlessly, and do all things with purpose.